Hello and welcome to another Plains of Truth podcast. I am your host, Cesar Lizardo. Fasten your seatbelt and put that face mask on because this MAGA plane is going down faster than Trump's shitcoin after 5 days on the market. Damn, I thought I was investing in a pretty good altcoin. Lost about $150 right off the bat. I guess we'll just chalk it up to a donation for Trump. Anyways, here we go. We're talking about everything involving Trump. MAGA, where it's at, it's going down fast. But first off, this is my first time wearing this hat. Does it look racist or does it look patriotic? Do I seem racist because I'm wearing an American flag on my hat? Comment down below. What does it make me look like? Am I a patriot or do you just feel like that guy's a coon? But either way, while the first 100 days were a total mixed bag of good and bad, a lot of the Trumpists were like, yes, he's promises made, promises kept. He's doing everything. You know, he's got a million EOs. It was followed up by a lot of economic questionable policies that left most people scratching their head. Is this going to work? Is it not going to work? Is this 5D chess? This is, people were basically equating Trump to Bobby Fischer. He's the economic 5D chess champion, right? And It's been a lot of downhill since then. The next 48 days, we're on day 148 now. It's been a total disaster. It's been teamed with controversy and war, complete with all sorts of flub-ups. I have people screaming, promises made, promises broken. Look, I wrote some stuff down, all right? So I'm just going to go by the script. So much has happened, if you blinked, you might think you napped and landed in an alternate universe. Somewhere there's a guy who went on a 3-week camping trip when the world was alright and came back like, Trump is funding the deep state so Palantir can surveil us? They deported my pizza guy? And we're at war with Iran? Yep, there's a lot of shit going on. There's a lot of shit going on. In case you missed it, the one big beautiful bill passed in the Congress, but not in the Senate. It's moving on to the Senate now. They got to go and make sure that everything is hunky-dory, which it is not, because it barely passed by one vote. I think it was like 159 to 158 or something like that, with notable Republican standouts. And the provisions, characterized by tax cuts for the rich, fueled by benefit cuts to the poor, created a huge public rift between Elon and Trump. While Elon showed up sporting a suspicious black eye, reminiscent of an abused side chick, Trump's legacy has a black eye, bloody nose, and busted lip, and he's still got several rounds to go in this fight. Then there's this huge Trump PR debacle with no kings protests. No, I'm not talking about the Latin kings of the Puerto Rican gang fame. That's not the PR debacle we're talking about. We're talking about protests over deportations that turned into riots. And there were some pretty cool pictures that came out of there. Lots of crazy scenes. I mean, it just keeps going. And it makes you wonder, was it orchestrated by the right? Was it funded by the left? What is going on? Is it a unilateral move? There's a lot of questions. You also got the ongoing trade wars, but that's too boring for these headlines. So Trump decided, let's ditch the trade wars and go with trad wars, traditional wars, something that really grabs the attention of the public. Guns, bombs, spies, deceit, Israel and the Middle East. Yep, we're back in business, baby. We're bombing Baghdad. That's in Iraq, but it's also alliteration, so don't worry about it. And here's one win for Trump and conspiracy theorists. Just this morning, or last night, Kash Patel revealed that the FBI previously concealed reports that China was giving out thousands of fake IDs to fraud Biden in the last election. To commit election fraud in favor of Joe Biden. So, Trump was right. It was China. Plain of truth. It was China the whole time. We thought it was Stinky Pelosi. It was China. Stinky Pelosi. I like that one. Now, there's a lot more to reveal with that. We can't forget about Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine is doing its damnedest to try to stay in the fight, and Russia's like, yeah, I don't think so. And then, so yeah, let's start off with where are we gonna start? Let's start with the one big beautiful bill. All right, now, like we said, promises made, promises kept, or promises made, promises broken. Now, remember this guy? Look at this idiot right here. Guys, you need to stop saying he's cutting your benefits.
And tell Donald Trump to keep his hands off our Social Security.
So that they can steal our health care, Social Security, and veterans benefits.
Elon Musk, where are you? Bring your ass over here.
He's not doing that. If anything, Elon Musk is daily talking to reporters.
Doge will make sure you get your Social Security. Doge will make sure you get your Medicaid.
Okay, so what are they doing? They're actually taking away people's benefits. They are not only taking away people's benefits, they're giving them to the rich, just like they said Elon or Trump was going to do. Now, you guys are probably all aware of this whole Elon and Trump fight. He showed up to the Oval Office with a black eye. It was very, very weird because, like, on a Friday, Trump is like, Elon's the best, here's your key to the White House. And then a few days later, Elon is like, oh, this bill is filled with pork. It's terrible. It's an abomination. And then Trump is like, I don't know what's up with Elon. Elon, he's kind of crazy. He's on drugs. And then Elon was like, he's in the Epstein files. And that's pretty much what happened, as told to you by a 7th grader. All right. We got pictures of divorced parents. You know, this one's pretty great. I love this one. It's Elon with the black eye and JD Vance with the awesome purple face and the Jerry curl. And then my favorite reaction to it was Kanye. He just goes, "No, bros, please no." We love you both. But really what's happening is that they said they weren't going to make cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. They said they weren't going to mess with people's social benefits. And they said that they weren't going to just do stuff in favor of the rich. And then, oh, guess what they did? That's exactly what they did. They're proposing on cutting $625 billion from Medicaid, $267 billion from SNAP, which is food assistance programs. I don't know. I think it's like some nutrition ass program or something like that. They're also doing tax cuts for the rich in the form of SALT taxes. Those are the not sea, air, land, terrain. It's state and local taxes. Okay, which these are tax cuts that are for everyone. But because of the proportions, they highly favor the rich. So it's like, 10% of $100 is $10, right? But 10% of $1 million is $100,000. So while I'm getting a $10 cut or tax cut, this guy's getting a 6-figure tax cut, right? And that's what they're talking about. And no tax on tips and overtime. That's a good one. Right? And, there were some things that were considered to be positive in the bill. No tax on tips and overtime, $1,000 child tax credits for what they're calling MAGA accounts for any kid born between now and 2028, which is cool too. But again, it's only for the next 3 years. But, $1,000 is $1,000. So I guess go impregnate somebody. Go get pregnant for that $1,000, baby. And then, $140 billion for ICE agents, for a border wall, for technological advances, basically for broad security purposes, adding to the military budget. And so why people are pretty upset about this also is because the Doge cuts didn't really go through as planned, right? If you remember, Elon was saying that he was going to have $1 billion $1 to $2 trillion in cuts, and then people were going to get these like magical $5,000 back in their account. Then it went from 2 trillion to 1 trillion to half a billion to 500 billion to now they're like at somewhere between 100 and 200 billion, which is like barely 10%, 5 or 10% of what the original task was, what the original goal was. And when they went after what they can cut, yeah, there was a lot of silly programs in there, the USAID cuts, which was again a mixed bag because they're saying like, well, this is obviously bullshit we don't need to do. We don't need to figure out why transgender spiders are sad, but then they're like, oh, well, some of this aid was going to, keep kids with AIDS in Africa alive, and you just killed those kids, right? And it's hard to know what's real and what's wrong because a lot of those programs were disguised under the guise of being something that was, politically advantageous to the United States or disguised as goodwill towards other nations, which in turn would also give us influence and our soft power around the world. So it's hard to tell what was real and what wasn't because we know that there's shenanigans. We know that there's waste, fraud, and abuse. But when you look at the title is like aid for the kids. And you're like, okay, that sounds great. And then you find out it's like aid for the pedophile billionaires to eat kids. And you're like, whoa, what? No, that's not what we want. And so when they're doing all these cuts with Doge or proposing all these cuts and they're going to all these places, all these government agencies, and they're cutting the NGOs, they're cutting funds from real people. They're cutting real jobs. They're cutting, thousands of people. They're laying them off or furloughing them or whatever. And then they're like, okay, but you guys are going to do the Pentagon next, right? Because they've never passed an audit. We know that they have a black budget. We know that we're basically getting our tax dollars stolen so that they can commit, all sorts of atrocities and all sorts of, military expenditures around the world that are killing people, right? You guys are going to go check them, right? Well, no, they didn't check them. They didn't go to the Pentagon, which, lets us know either A, they were never serious about doing it, or B, they went and knocked on the door and they weren't even let inside the building. They were just like, sorry, man, you got, it's like you have no power here. Where's that from? It's from some movie. You hold no power here. It's like some old like Jedi doing a Jedi trick or some analogy like that. You have no power here. That's like my old Filipino teacher used to, in Spanish class back in high school, this kid Taleva was talking shit and he just goes, Taleba, you have no say in this matter. And it was one of those things that you just remember for the rest of your life. It's been 20 years, 22 years or something since that class. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and read through some of the stuff that I looked up on Grok. I did a lot of my research on Grok because it's free AI. And it's AI by the ketamine guy. What are you going to do? It's fine. I get a lot of answers on there pretty quick. It's making research a breeze. And so I had asked it about the one big beautiful bill. And I asked it, okay, net good, net positive, net negative, what do you think? So one of the claims that Trump had was that the bill has $1.6 trillion in cuts, which is going to stimulate the economy. It's going to be really, really positive. The economy is going to grow, all this kind of stuff. So I went ahead and I asked Grok, does the $1.6 trillion cut offset the projected deficit? Now, it says that the CBO estimates and projects H.R. 1 increases the federal deficit by $2.4 trillion conventional to $3 trillion with interest over 2025 to 2034, which is a 9-year span. If temporary provisions, for example, child tax credit and bonus depreciation, are extended, the deficits could rise to $5 trillion. So the tax cuts, 3.7 to 3.8 trillion in revenue losses from extending the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which is basically just a broad tax cut from 2017 when Trump enacted it first, and it was set to expire, and he's extending it to make it permanent. Eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, increasing the SALT deduction cap, etc. Now, does it offset the deficit? No. The $1.6 trillion in cuts does not offset the projected deficit. The CBO's $2.4 to $3 trillion deficit increase accounts for $1.6 trillion in cuts, but tax cuts, which are $3.7 to $3.8 trillion, and new spending over $350 billion, far outweigh savings. Even with optimistic tariff and growth assumptions, independent analyses from the CBO, CRFB, Penn Wharton project a net deficit increase of $1.7 to $3.3 trillion. That's not good, especially when he's saying we're going to make everything great again, and really what they're just doing is exactly the same thing that we've been doing for the last 60 years, which is kick the can down the road, add to the deficit, increase military spending by lots of money, $140 billion, and then take away from the nation's poorest people in the form of decreasing SNAP benefits and food assistance, the Affordable Care Act, and Medicaid, right? Now, the White House's counter-argument is that Trump's team claims tariffs, growth 2.2 to 2.7% GDP, and Doge savings could yield a $300 billion deficit increase to a $2 trillion surplus. However, economists, including the CRFB, dismiss this as unrealistic, citing historical data. For example, the 2017 TCJA didn't pay for itself, and low tariff revenue. X posts like SpeechBoy71 call the White House's claims a lie based on the CBO's $3.8 trillion tax-driven deficit estimate. So is the claim true? It's partially true. The $1.6 trillion in mandatory spending cuts is accurate per CBO, but the record claim is misleading, as I said is record cuts in the question. As the 2023 Fiscal Responsibilities Act $1.53 trillion cuts are comparable. The White House's assertion of deficit reduction is false, as the net effect is whatever. Does it offset the deficit? No. So I asked, is it net positive or net negative? And Grok said it's net negative with caveats. Why negative? Fiscal concerns. The $2.4 to $5 trillion deficit increase overshadows the $1.6 trillion in cuts, risking long-term economic stability. Independent analyses and contradict White House claims of deficit reduction and tariff growth production are unreliable. It claims that there's social harm. Medicaid, SNAP, and ACA cuts disproportionately affect vulnerable populations, with 15.6 million losing coverage or benefits by 2034. This conflicts with equitable policy goals and could spark social unrest per X sentiment. Environmental setback. Repealing clean energy credits and prioritizing fossil fuels undermines climate progress, a growing public priority. And legislative risk. The Byrd Rule challenges could weaken the bill's coherence, disappointing supporters without resolving deficit concerns. The Byrd Rule challenge is basically, now that it is going from Congress to the Senate, they have to make sure that everything is hunky-dory, basically. And the Byrd Rule has a certain set of qualifications that shows whether or not something is kosher or not. Usually having to do with budgetary concerns, fiscal concerns. So like, does it add to or take away from the budget? Does it have any specific provisions that are in line with the stated goal of the bill? Stuff like that. So why it could be positive. Economic gains. Tax cuts could boost GDP by 0.8% and jobs by 1.2 million per tax foundation, benefiting workers and businesses. The TIPS overtime exemption is broadly popular. Security and efficiency. Border security, $140 billion, in defense, $150 billion, address voter priorities, while spending cuts align with fiscal conservatism and Project 25. Targeted benefits. State and local tax cap increase, and school choice vouchers at $10 billion benefit specific groups, high-tax state residents, and low-income families. So the conclusion is the bill's ambitious tax cuts and security investments are offset by a substantial deficit increase up to $5 trillion, significant social program reductions, and environmental setbacks, making it a net negative in my view based on fiscal sustainability and broad societal impact. However, its economic stimulus in alignment with conservative priorities could be a net positive for specific groups, such as businesses, high earners, and immigration hawks. The Byrd Rule's potential to strip provisions like the AI bans adds uncertainty but doesn't fully resolve the deficit issue. So there's a couple of things that were in this bill that really pissed a lot of people off. One of those things was there was a one-page rule, I guess, where it said that states were not allowed to regulate AI for 10 years. Now, why would you want to do that right during the cusp, right during the peak of AI? I mean, AI is starting to just blossom into this freaking monster that it is, right? Right now we have VEO3 is the hottest thing on the street, where people are making like full-on movies with one-sentence prompts. You want to now, in the time of Terminator, go ahead and say, hey, you know what? Let's just ease up on the regulations. We don't need to have any rules on this. Let's just let it fly free. Like, are you joking? That's insane, right? Because I always joke as part of my stand-up is like, we are so scared that AI is going to take over, but we've done nothing about it except for exacerbate its outcomes, right? Like, Terminator warned us 40 years ago that the machines were going to take over. And what did we do? We spent the next 40 years perfecting AI and perfecting our Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations. And what? Now we're all probably going to get taken over by the robots because we just thought it was fucking funny. Yeah, good accent. It's stupid. But that was one of the things which I'll get back to in a second. The other thing that was, basically one of the things that people were shouting from the rooftops since last year was, he's going to enact 2025, Project 2025. It's going to fascism and all this bullshit, right? And, Trump was like, what's that? I don't even know what it is. I haven't read it. I don't know what it is. And I think that was just kind of like a thing where he was able to say, like, I don't know what it is. I haven't even looked into it, even though that's exactly what I'm kind of trying to do. So I went ahead and I asked AI. I was like, hey, what do you guys think about this Project 2025? Is it real? How much of it aligns with President Trump's mandate? Give me a percentage. And it said 75 to 80%. 75 to 80% alignment with this dreaded Project 2025 that people were so scared about and talking about. And MAGA was like, no, he's not going to do it. Fuck you or whatever, right? But, it broke down what were like the strongest overlaps, medium overlaps, and, low overlaps. But it said about 60 or so percent of the bill was directly in line with Project 2025. So it gave it about a 75 to 80% score somehow. I don't know. But the strongest overlaps were in tax cuts for the rich, social program reductions, like we already talked about with Affordable Care Act and SNAP and Medicaid, and adding border security, energy deregulation, and civil service reforms. For example, things like at-will employment. They're just saying, hey, we can fire you now because that's, I don't know if you guys remember The Apprentice, that's his favorite move. You're fired. You're fired. So going back to this whole AI regulation ban, that is kind of crazy, and it goes together with a lot of the things that are happening right now. When you look at immigration, when you look at what's going on with Elon, because one of the things that people are really scared about right now is Palantir. Palantir is this AI tech company that they're using basically for advanced surveillance on U.S. citizens, and it's essentially just it's a business that it can't be funded by the government, but it works with the government, with the CIA, and so they made a private company because they said, well, we can't do it, but a private company can do it. And now they're contracting this private company to do it anyway. And so you would have to assume, because they said it, that a lot of those hundreds of billions of dollars that are going towards the military budget are going to go specifically to Palantir so that they can surveil its citizens. And what their stated goal is to surveil on illegal immigrants coming in so they can track them down and get them the hell out of here, which is a large part of the mandate that Trump had. A lot of people are really gung-ho about all these deportations. The problem is that once you start surveilling the citizens, it opens the door to surveilling everybody for anything and tramping down on civil liberties. We all remember that right after 9/11, they instituted the Patriot Act so they can, tap everyone's phone calls, and then they just started egregiously going through everyone's emails, going through, there's a reason why in that movie, The Social Network, which when did it come out, like 10, 15 years ago or something like that, Zuckerberg had a little black thing on his camera, on his phone, just to cover up the camera phone, and on the computer phone, on the computer camera, because he knows that the NSA is watching us at all times, right? Actually, it's funny because that's the second time I had to say that, because as I was saying that, my camera cut out, which to me is probably a sign that the NSA is watching right now, and they're going, hey, this guy's onto something. He's trying to spread the message, so we should just clickety-clack, stop that. But I started over again because I'm a rebel. Stupid. Anyways, don't come and kill me. I got like 2 followers, all right? I will never unalive myself. I'm a very happy individual. I have a lot to live for. Anyways, now, deportation, all right? Now, this is a very divisive issue. Obviously, a lot of people recognize that there were millions of illegals that came over, especially during the Biden administration. They literally just opened the doors and let the floodgates through. And it was very, very concerning who was coming through, especially because there were reports that it wasn't just, Central Americans, mainly from like Mexico and Salvador and Honduras and stuff like that. But it was also like Chinese nationals and people from, Niger and Afghanistan and like all these like random countries where we do have a lot of activity, whether it's terrorist activity or anti-American sentiment. There's a large school of thought that says that the Chinese don't allow their citizens to do anything. So the fact that they've got, thousands of nationals coming in, military age, all coordinated, it seems like a coordinated attack. Got a lot of military age males from all sorts of unfriendly to United States type of places. And so people are concerned. And, we're seeing the impact in communities as far as, crime going up. That's disputed, of course. As far as the benefits being doled out to the immigrants, but not to the people there, of course, that's also disputed. That could be seen as blaming the immigrants, that as nationalism and fascist is what I was told recently. Plain of truth. And, I think the blame is obviously with the government, not with the poor people trying to come into this country. But the government did signal, hey, now's the time to come and we're going to set you up with a dope life. And those people just obliged, it's human nature. They said, hey, we're going to go to a better place. And, unfortunately, with all the good people that came through, there was a lot of bad people that also came through. Now, the deportations are something that need to happen, and it's something that America overwhelmingly voted for. However, there are reports that there are shenanigans, that they are doing it incorrectly, that they're going in and they're grabbing people who, it's just the guy making pizza, the guy who's been here for 20 years and has 3 kids, the guy, this, that, and the other, right? And as I mentioned before, I think that if you've been here for 20 years and we haven't caught you, I think you should just get a pass. Do it the right way or outlast the government. It's like a giant hide and seek competition. If you've been here for 20 years, boom, you just won hide and seek America. But other than that, man, it's really tough because there's also reports that they go in after Jose Blose. That's the that's the Spanish version of Joe Blow. Jose Blose is Trenderagua, which, by the way, just sounds like a fun drink that you get. Can I get a burrito with a Trenderagua? Large, lots of ice. Lots of ice. And Jose Blose is in there, and he's there with the family, but half the family is also illegal. Well, they go in and they find Jose Blose, and they see the other illegal people there. Maybe these illegal people are nice, upstanding, non-citizens, but positive assets to the community or whatnot. But because Jose Blose is there, they have to take all of them, because it's like, well, now that I see that they're all here, I can't just close my eyes and pretend I don't see it. I have to take everybody in. And that's where a lot of the upset communities have come from, is like they're tearing people out of their homes, they're doing this and that and the other thing. And it's gotten a lot of attention. Obviously, there were, over the last weekend, there was the No Kings rallies and protests, which turned into riots, cars on fire, Waymos on fire, which, by the way, fuck those things. I hate Waymos. Every time I see one with its million cameras, I'm just like, fuck you and your surveillance bullshit. Because that's basically what they are. They're surveillance bots disguised as Ubers, taking away money from all those gig economy drivers. So I'm glad they got lit on fire. Fuck them all. But at the same time, this is lawlessness, and this is not good for our community to see things being burnt on fire. Apparently there was looting. Apparently there was, mom and pop shops on fire. But this is just what you see on the internet. Because if I don't know what's real anymore. AI has completely fucked everything over. People reporting on X are sometimes the most not the most verifiable, but the most believable and the most unbelievable. Because, while the media is telling you one thing, you go to the accounts of real people on the streets giving you real reports of what's happening in real time. But at the same time, there's also a ton of bad actors, and you got to sift through it all and figure out for yourself, okay, well, what's real, what's not. The reports are saying that people were looting and their shit on fire. I go on the internet and I see shit on fire. I'm like, okay, maybe that's true. I had somebody argue to me, is like, why do you even care? That's if a corporation gets lit on fire, that's not, I'm like, well, they're still destroying the community, and what message is that sending to, let's say the young kids, right, who have less to live for these days? A college degree doesn't mean the same thing. They probably grew up where they had to wear a face mask throughout their whole, adolescence, or the last 3 years of high school, or they're going into a workforce where it's like, become an OnlyFans model or become a fast food worker, because what are the options? Every AI is taking over everything. These people don't give a shit anymore. So when you're saying, hey, let's go out there and destroy the world, they're going, fuck yeah, let's do that because everything sucks anyway, you know? It's not good. It's not good. It's not all the way great. But, you know, there were a couple of, I guess, caveats, you know. They are deporting some people, hopefully the right people. Now, you know, we all know what happened with Kilmar Abrego, where they sent him out and then they had to bring him back. You know, because of you know, after saying they're like we're not gonna bring him back, fuck that, he's in Salvador, and then they're like, okay, fine, we'll bring him back because the judge made us, you know, but they're still prosecuting him. They're like, okay, well now we're gonna get him for real this time, and you know, there's reports. There's reports. There's reports of good stuff and bad stuff. They're getting criminals, and they're also getting guys who maybe are not criminals. They're just illegal. But if you're illegal, you're a criminal. I'm saying, I have empathy for these people. I know most of the Latino community comes with a very strong sense of family and community values. They're hard workers. I mean, probably one of the most racist things I'll ever say is I love working with Mexicans because they're fucking hard workers. I mean, I've worked in a lot of restaurants. I work in labor, and they're some of the hardest workers. Mexicans above the age of 45, fucking awesome workers. Mexicans below the age of 45, you got to get your shit together. Racist. Fuck, it's the hat. It's the hat made me racist, guys. Don't worry, I've been jumped into several Mexican families. I didn't get my MBA in business school. I got my MBA in the streets, Mexican by association. So just fucking chill, all right. But here's some pretty cool pictures. That's a cool fucking picture. You know, I don't really support the idea of fucking shit up and then waving a different country's flag here in the United States as if I just don't get it. So you want to stay here, but to stay here, you're going to wave the flag of a different country? It just doesn't make sense to me. You know, it's like if you wanted to stay here, maybe wave the Mexican and American flag at the same time. I don't know. It just, the logic doesn't logic to me. And then there was a couple of things that happened with people being straight up arrested. Senator Alex Padilla put in handcuffs. He wasn't detained or arrested, but they put him in handcuffs. This is the video right here. Go sideways, you dumbass.
Guys, back up, guys. Back up. I understand. You white people, you need to get back up. Hey, you're interfering with this arrest?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Back up, guys. Back up, guys.
This is not legal to take someone without a judicial warrant.
Okay, so this one was actually the comptroller in New York, this guy named Bill Ladler. As you can see, he's saying, like, hey, you guys don't have a warrant, and one of the guys was actually waving the warrant, and everybody else is, like, just surrounding them, making a spectacle, but they're like, all right, you know what, we're gonna put you in cuffs, because you're...
Please, step back. Step back, guys.
You're trying to obfuscate? No, that means to hide. You're trying to impede on a federal motion to arrest the guy. I don't know. That sounded smart. All right. Here's the one with
Alex Padilla.
Here's the one with Padilla. I am a senator, damn it.
Because the fact of the matter is, a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
So, you know, they pushed him out, and then he's still trying to fight, and then they're like, all right, you know, we're gonna take you. And he's like, oh no, wait, no, I put my hands up now. I was like, well, this is the thing. Is like, and then we had that judge, Hannah Duggan, a couple months ago, who actually got sentenced to 7 years of prison because of the fact that when the ICE people, they sound like a bunch of Vikings, but no. When ICE came to the court to come and collect one of the people they were going to arrest, she tells the guy, hey, come this way. She takes him out the back door and lets him out into the public. And they're like, dude, what are you doing? You just let out a criminal. Like, now we got to go chase the guy, which, you know, we don't know what he's going to do. We might have to shoot him. We might miss. We might hit somebody else. Like, he might have a homie on the outside who's going to shoot us. Like, it's dangerous. You never know. You never know with these things. And so, you know, while I don't agree with taking people and deporting them without due process, which is what the claims people are making are. I also don't agree with officials stopping people from being arrested when they're trying to arrest somebody. It's like, okay, the police are there. They're going to arrest them. This is not the time to combat that. The time to combat that is afterwards in the courts. Okay? And then you sue the shit out of them for doing something illegal or for doing something improper. But if you're trying to fight police, you might get shot, right? You might get shot. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't fight police if they were arresting my dad. I'd be talking shit. I'd be like, what the fuck? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, my dad's not illegal. He's a citizen. Very, very proud citizen, you know? He sounds illegal, but he's super legal. I thought this was pretty fun right here. You got ICE and LAPD and the Marine Corps and the State Police and a writer and the National Guard, and they're all named Hernandez. That's hilarious. It's funny memes. I love memes. But you know, that's something that's again hotly contested. We don't know what to make of it. Now, with the no kings thing, right? No kings. It all ties in, and it's all very suspicious because you gotta wonder, right? There were reports. Again, there's reports. There's always reports. There's reports that say that a lot of it was funded by left organizations. The Democrats spent however many millions of dollars to literally send people out there. You look at a lot of the pictures in the crowd, and you'll see like a crowd of like 100 people, and the youngest person there is like 58. You know, it's a bunch of senior citizens. Like, it just looks super coordinated, right? You get a lot of these groups of people who are getting paid, supposedly, to show up and protest. It's very grassroots, right? But then they have a very official website. They have, you know, campaign posters. They have, you know, the pre-made signs. They have the songs, and they've passed out the pamphlets of people with the song lyrics, and you know, they have like, hey, no more Trump or whatever, right? This guy is in the dump, some bullshit, you know, and it seems very coordinated that way. And so you're like, okay, yeah, maybe the left is doing this to create dissent. You know, they're still trying to impeach Trump and get rid of him or whatever because whatever, right? But then you're looking at this whole AI thing. You're looking at how much money that they're putting into Palantir. And there's a phrase, a term that's been going around quite a bit lately. It's manufactured consent, which, for example, they say 9/11 was an inside job, supposedly, right? Allegedly. 9/11 was an inside job, but beforehand, they wanted to go to war with 7 different countries. There was a list. They said they wanted to go to war, and Dave Smith talks about this all the time in the Clean Break memo. Israel wanted to part with the Muslim world insofar as peace talks are concerned. And so in order to do that, instead of making peace with these countries, they didn't want to give the Palestinians a state. So they decided, you know what, we're not going to make peace with these assholes. We're actually just going to take all of their regimes out. We're going to go to war with these 7 countries so they could just leave us the hell alone, and then we can do whatever the hell we want. And it's not anti-Semitic, so shut the hell up, all right? This is just something that actually happened, and you can look it up. I'm just reporting it the way it happened. The 7 countries that they wanted to go to war with in 5 years, this is a memo given to General Wesley Clark back in like 1990 or something like that. 1999. I don't know, sometime in the 90s. And it was the 7 countries were Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Libya, Somalia, Lebanon, and Syria. And they haven't gone to war with all 7 of those countries, and it didn't happen in 5 years. But as of the last 3 to 5 days, they just hit the 7th country, being Iran, with Israel going off and hitting them with missiles. And I'll get to that in a second. But the whole point of that little rant was this whole manufactured consent, right? They said, we're not going to be able to go to war with any of these countries short of another Pearl Harbor, because the Americans just won't have it. They just won't allow it. But if there's a Pearl Harbor event, then boom, baby, we're off to the races. We could bomb whoever the hell we want. Well, what do you know? Like 6 months after that statement was made, you got 9/11, and now we're in war with Afghanistan for 20 years. We're in Iraq. We're bombing the shit out of everybody else. And we end up overthrowing a bunch of governments and a bunch of those other countries as well. Iran was the last one on the list. It's the most difficult target on the list. They actually have like a pretty good government as far as like their weapons capabilities, their military, and all that kind of stuff. It's a big country, but they're surrounded by U.S. bases, which are practically in like every country or like right around them. It's like literally, it's like, and then my head is Iran. Those are U.S. bases. So the whole argument about these No Kings protests, riots, who was really behind it? Was it the Democrats funding it in order to make the Republicans look bad? Was it the Republicans funding it in order to manufacture consent so that when there's riots, people will say, hey, we need this law and order bad. Deport who you can, do what you got to do. We don't care at this point. And then they say, okay, now we got Palantir, and they're going to surveil on you guys. But you guys said it was okay because you voted for it because we need it, right? And then you're like, well, who is this most advantageous for? And you're like, well, maybe it was a unilateral thing because we already know that's how our government works, you know? They basically fight in public and they shake hands behind closed doors, you know? When you see pictures of Trump and Chuck Schumer in the Oval Office, and they're laughing like a couple of schoolgirls. And then the next day, he's like, "Fuck Chuck," and Schumer's like, "He's got to go," or whatever he says, right? No kings. I can't do a Chuck Schumer impersonation. It's kind of telling. I saw a meme today. It said, "It's like in chess, the black pieces and the white pieces are at total war, while the opponents controlling those pieces shake hands and are friends." Something like that. And it's like, oh, that makes sense, you know? So it's a little conspiratorial, right? Obviously, I'm not afraid of a good conspiracy theory. So it makes you wonder, you know, what is really behind these protests? Is it something is it like a huge false flag event, you know? Because, again, when you're looking at deportations, you got to think about, like, okay, well, who was the deporter-in-chief? Plain and truth, it was Obama. Obama was the deporter-in-chief. And where were all the No Kings protests back then? They didn't give a shit. You know, it was like Black Power and all that bullshit while he's kicking out the Brown Power. So that is something that I think we should look forward to in the future. Not look forward to, but just look towards as far as trying to figure out what is going on. So moving on to more conspiracies. Kash Patel. Man, this is a good one. This is a good one. He tweeted last night, the FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. elections, including allegations of interference by the CCP. I have immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to the Chairman Grassley for further review.
Specifically, these include allegations of plans from the CCP to manufacture fake driver's license and ship them into the United States for the purpose of facilitating fraudulent mail-in ballots. Allegations which, while substantiated, were abruptly recalled, never disclosed to the public. That bug-eyed son of a bitch, he better tell us what the hell is going on, all right? Because this is not the disclosure we wanted for. This is not the disclosure we asked for. This is not the disclosure we wanted, all right? Trump is probably like, I told you, it was fraud, it was China, But at the same time, it's like, there's so many things we wanted answers for. Where's the Epstein stuff? Where's the Diddy stuff? Where's the stuff about Thomas Crooks? How come we haven't found out who's behind the so-called Trump assassination attempt? I'm not even sure it was a real attempt anymore. I'm calling it now. Those were fake bodies. That was fake blood. Look at his ear. His ear's fucking fine. All right. I'm starting to think we got bamboozled. All right. I'm thinking we got bamboozled. I'm getting ready to jump off of this MAGA wagon. All right. I was on the MAGA bandwagon. I think I'm about to jump off this MAGA wagon because I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful that shit's gonna be fine. Is there a goddamn lawnmower around here? I'm still hopeful. All right. But at the same time, it's like, come on, man. Like, he didn't even, look into it. This is a guy who is always down for controversy, always down for talking shit. Except for when Elon says that he was on that list or when they try to kill him. Every other time, he's down to talk shit. But when those two things happen, he's like, I don't know, I have nothing to say. My Twitter fingers are broken. Truth Social fingers are broken. I can't say anything. It's like, come on, man. So at least there's another conspiracy theory proven correct that there was election fraud and these motherfuckers were behind it. It was the Chinese. It was the Chinese. Who would have thought? We didn't know it was the Chinese. We thought it was like the fucking, I don't know. We thought it was Pelosi. It was the Chinese. It might have been Pelosi. I don't know. Last thing we could talk about, I guess, Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, still going on. And when you start to think about it, yeah, we're in World War III. All right, because, and it's all connected. Even though you don't think it's connected, how could Ukraine and Russia be tied to, let's say, Israel and Iran? I got to talk about that because we didn't talk about that. Russia was helping out Iran and Syria, but then they got bogged down with Ukraine, which allowed Israel to come in and do more military engagement while Russia's back was turned. And then, Iran had... Okay, here's the thing with Iran. They supply weapons and funding, supposedly, to Hamas in Gaza and the Houthis in Yemen and Hezbollah in Lebanon, which honestly sounds like DJ Khaled's next song, like Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, woo, another one, woo, I don't know, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah. Let's go. I'm still thinking about going back to rap. I'm still thinking about Kanye. He's like, no, bros, no, like he's talking to Elon, between Elon and Trump. And he's just mad about it. He's like, no, Elon, we had so much in common, Anyways, my heart goes out to you, huh? All right, I did some more research. I did a whole bunch of research because every time I hear what's going on, I get lost up in the names and stuff. But essentially, what you need to know, if you don't already know, Israel, obviously, since October 7th, has been having this fight. Israel has also occupied Gaza for 50 years now. And this whole fight has been over. They just want the Palestinians just want to go back to the 1967 borders, which would include Gaza and the West Bank, because does Israel have a right to exist? Yes, Israel has a right to exist. But does Palestine have a right to exist? They never want to answer that question. And it's like, well, no, Hamas. It's like, yeah, but they're also just regular fucking people there. You know what I mean? And if we're going to be honest, they're the real Semites. They're the actual Semites, because most of the Israeli people that are there are transplants from Eastern Europe, from Poland and Ukraine and Russia and stuff like that. And not to say that they didn't go through the worst of the worst times, that they didn't have severe trauma because of the Holocaust, that they didn't, suffer incredibly from the pogroms and, decades or hundreds of years of punishment and all that kind of stuff. But now they're just turning around and doing the same fucking thing to the Palestinians, right? And we all see it. We can all see it on Twitter every day, on Instagram, on TikTok. They're losing the PR battle. Again, not Puerto Ricans. They're losing a really bad battle because people are kind of sick of it. To the point where when Iran started bombing Tel Aviv a couple days ago, people were on Twitter going, fuck yeah, go for Iran and stuff, which is like something that people never do. Iran has been propagandized to be one of the biggest boogeymen that we have out there besides North Korea and China and Russia. Iran is like, the new axis of evil, and people are rooting for Iran because they're tired of Israel's shit. And when we say tired of Israel's shit, this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. The United States, Trump was supposed to go and talk to Iran about their nuclear capabilities on Sunday. On Friday, Netanyahu bombs Iran, kills the guy who's the main negotiator, kills a bunch of the generals, a bunch of the top scientists, a bunch of the people in charge, pretty much everybody besides the supreme Ayatollah. The main guy, they didn't kill. Almost everybody under him, they killed. They killed like 200 something people. A lot of them were supposedly civilians. Iran attacked back. They went after, some military sites. They also supposedly took down a few jets, but Israel's denying it. Israel doesn't want to accept or admit any of the military casualties. They're just saying that they killed civilians. And then on the opposite side, they're saying that Iran is overestimating how many civilians were killed to try to garner some kind of sympathy from the outside world. Either way, Trump had told Bibi Netanyahu, don't go over there, don't do anything. We're going to try to make sure this shit happens safely, peacefully. We're going to talk. We're going to stop them from enriching their uranium. And what did they do? They went behind Trump's back. They killed all those people when they knew the peace talks were 2 days away. Now, this is so incredibly fucked up on a lot of different reasons. One of them is because supposedly Trump was trying to negotiate in good faith. Now, Bibi goes behind Trump's back, does this, and then goes on television and says, oh no, Trump knew about it. Trump knew about it. Bibi essentially, they ask him, hey, did you tell Trump that you were going to do this? And he was like, yeah, he knew about it. And but how long ago did he know? He's like, look, Trump, he is going to do what's good for America, but he knew about it. And to me, that basically it was oh, this guy is fucking lying, because he gave a very political answer where he didn't just say yes or no outright. He was kind of well, yeah, he knew. Yeah. Basically, but when did he know? He was he knew. And it's okay, so you're trying to undermine Trump's power and authority by just doing what he asked you not to do anyway. He publicly said, don't do it. He publicly said he didn't know about it. And now you're saying that he knew about it and you did it anyway with his approval. That puts us in a very fucked up position, because now, whether it's true or not, now we're on the hook to fight this goddamn war that nobody wants to fight. We already spent millions and trillions of dollars bombing people to smithereens, creating enemies out of the entire Muslim world, which is billions of people, all right? And I don't know if you know what happened right before 9/11. It was us going to the Middle East and bombing the shit out of all these poor people, creating bases in their holy lands, and supporting Israel's terrible and completely abominable treatment of the Palestinian people. That was what Osama bin Laden said in his letter to the United States, which went viral last year. He was like, you guys keep supporting Israel, and you guys keep bombing us and putting bases on our holy land, and that's fucked up. So we're bombing you guys. We're going to do 9/11 now. That's what they said, right? Well, what do you think is going to happen when you're trying to blow Gaza off the map, right? You've seen the pictures. It's razed down to the ground. And, you know, somebody will say, oh, well, Iran wants to wipe Israel off the map. And it's like, well, what do you think Israel's doing to Gaza, right? And it's like, they're sitting there playing this violin saying like, oh, us poor Jewish people, everybody wants to kill us and everybody hates us. And it's like, I have no idea why. It's like, well, you have no idea why? You have no idea why people want to kill you? And I'm not saying Jewish people around the world. I'm talking about the Israeli government and the evils that they have propagated. That's not anti-Semitic, so don't even try that shit with me. Love everybody, you know. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm anti-evil, and that's what Israel's doing. They're being fucking evil, and the United States is partaking in that evil bullshit too. And Trump needs to grow some fucking nuts and stop this shit, you know? It's ridiculous. Netanyahu angry at Americans for not wanting to go to war for him. Look, I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. Look, I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. Are you fucking threatening us? Are you threatening us, you piece of shit? Because, there's reports, planes of truth, that the planes went into the, and that, you know, these guys had some involvement. There's reports. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying people are reporting. That's what they're saying, you know. And the whole reason why they want to go over there is because they're enriching uranium to make nuclear threats. Here's where this is fucked up, okay? First of all, we got Tulsi Gabbard. As recently as March of this year, April, May, June, that's less than 3 months ago, March 26th, 2.5 months ago, she writes, the United States intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khomeini has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. So as recently as 3 months ago, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence says they ain't got no bombs, they ain't got no nukes, they're not nuking anybody, they're not trying to nuke anybody, they're not trying to create any nukes for nobody, okay? Nobody's got no nukes, all right? Which, by the way, that's a double negative, which means that people do got nukes. And you know who those people are? It's everybody surrounding Iran. It's like Pakistan, India. Who's the other big one? Oh, yeah, fucking Israel has nukes. Okay? While Iran is part of the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, which says that, hey, you guys could come in and check our shit, and we're not going to do nothing to create nukes. They haven't been too cooperative, but they've been part of the treaty, and they haven't created any nukes. They say that they're just enriching uranium for the people, you know, for energy's sake, right? Supposedly, everybody has known that Israel has nuclear warheads ever since like the 60s. All right, I just looked it up. I also grokked it, and I was like, hey, Grok, how does Israel have nuclear warheads? If so, about how many? And what is the probability that they have them? Give me a percentage. And Grok was like, well, since like the 60s, people have been saying this guy said it, that guy said it. It's never an official thing. They've always said, they've always never really answered the question. They don't say they have them. They don't say they don't have them. But pretty much everybody knows it's about 95% that they got somewhere around 100 to 200 nukes. So while Israel is saying they want to wipe us off the map and they want to create nuclear programs so that they can kill all of us, they are literally killing all of the Palestinians with a bunch of nukes on their hands and then lying to everybody in the process. It's like when they say you point one finger, there's three pointed right back at you. Israel is that pointer. They're a pointer nation. They're a pointer government. That's what they do. They point their fucking fingers and they say, that's the bad guy. It's a Scarface quote. Here's my boy, Davey Smith.
Attack, like somehow you're supposed to feel like you're the good guys in an absolute war of choice against a country that does not have nuclear weapons. Let's get real here. The only country in the Middle East who secretly has nuclear weapons is Israel. Yes. Iran is a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel is not, and they have nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and
it's
they're
just unbelievable.
A rogue nation attacking six of their neighbors as we speak, and are not part of the non-proliferation.
We actually have.
Cool with that.
We have a non-compliant nuclear member of the NPT actually attacking a member of the NPT who is far more in compliance with said international treaty. Hey, whatever. What do I know, right?
They said it a lot more succinctly than I did. I'm basically just reporting on reports. There's reports. There's lots of reports. But man, it's sad. It's sad because here we are again, about to go to war with that seventh country. Maybe not in 5 years. It took them 5 years and dog years, I guess. You know, but fuck, man. You know, and this is right after we have record enrollment in our U.S. military, and maybe not record, but you know, there's been a huge uptick in enrollment in the United States military and our military forces ever since Trump got back. People were like, hell yeah, America, buddy, woo, because that's what all military men sound like. Hell yeah, America, buddy. And so it's like, great, we just got a whole new round of people that unfortunately are going to have to go fight this fucked up war that nobody wants. But when they say that, you know, if we put down our weapons, there will be peace. If they put down their weapons, there will be peace. If we put down our weapons, Israel will be no more. Check this shit out right here. And this was...
The Israeli Prime Minister came here today and said that Israel is surrounded by those who want to destroy it, an enemy. We're here, members of a Muslim Arab committee, mandated by 57 Arab and Muslim countries. And I can tell you here, very unequivocally, all of us are willing to, right now, guarantee the security of Israel in the context of Israel ending the occupation and allowing for the emergence of a Palestinian state, independent state, along the threats that we all agree. He is creating that danger because he simply does not want the two-state solution. And if he does not want the two-state solution, can you ask the Israeli officials, what is their end game? Other than just wars and wars and wars. I'm telling you, all of us in the Arab world here, we want a peace in which Israel lives in peace and security, accepted, normalized with all Arab countries in the context of ending the occupation, withdrawing from Arab territory, allowing for the emergence of an independent, sovereign Palestinian state on June 4, 1967, lines with occupied Jerusalem as capital. That is our narrative. That is, and we will guarantee Israel's security in that context. Can you ask Israelis what's their narrative other than I'm going to continue to go to war, I'm going to kill this and kill that and destroy this and this that? The amount of damage that Israeli government has done, 30 years of efforts to convince people that peace is possible, this Israeli government killed it. The amount of dehumanization, hatred, bitterness will take generations to navigate through. So ultimately the question is, we want peace, and we've laid out a plan for peace. Ask any Israeli official what is their plan for peace. You'll get nothing, because they're only thinking of the first step, we're going to go destroy Gaza, inflame the West Bank, destroy Lebanon, and after that, they have no plan. We have a plan. We have no partner for peace in Israel. There is a partner for peace in the Arab world, and that's why the international community needs to move.
So, I think it's been obvious for a while, especially when, there's ceasefires. And then you're like, oh, great, there's a ceasefire. And then we get a couple of hostages back. We're like, yeah, we got some hostages back. And then it just goes right back to bombing people. And it's like, here's one of those reports. I don't know if it's true. It's just a report. It's a tweet. I don't know. I got to look it up. But one of the things that they're saying is like, oh, they put all of their military bases in hospitals and schools so that they're using people as civilian targets. Well, apparently, like, one of the biggest bases is in Tel Aviv, like, right where they got struck. And it's, like, underneath apartment complexes. It's like, oh, who's using human shields now? It's exactly the same thing. They point one finger and there's three pointing back at them, So that's just one of the things we got to look after. And it's pretty sad what's going on. Anyways, here's some hope for the future. We don't know what's going on yet. We don't know if hopefully Trump is playing like 8D chess. Shit. He's not even playing the right fucking game. Hopefully Trump is playing 8D chess, 4D chess, whatever kind of chess, something, because something's got to give. We can't go to another war. We can't have illegal immigrants overrunning our country. We can't have Palantir putting a surveillance state on us. We can't have AI taking away all of our jobs. We can't have civil war. We can't. There's so many things that are very, very scary. The one positive thing is that the will of the people is to get better as a country, and we have more information than we ever had before. Now, are we going to be able to figure out what's real and what's not in this AI revolution? It's like I said before. They convinced us the dinosaurs were real back in 1993 when we watched Jurassic Park for the first time. And you couldn't tell the difference between a real Tyrannosaurus Rex or if it was on TV. They could do that 30 years ago. Guess what they can do now? Probably all the fake Bidens, all the fake Hillarys, there's like the clones and stuff going around. Who knows? But stay vigilant, buy some guns, protect your free speech, hug your kids and your wife and your husband and your family, love people, love everyone, and don't forget, your neighbor is not your enemy. The motherfuckers in power, those are their enemies, all right? And it's like that picture of the one politician on top of the plank and 1,000 people on the end of the plank holding him up. And the guy's holding a piece of paper like, holy shit, if they only knew that all they got to do is step away and I'm in the abyss. That's who we are. We got all the power. We just don't realize it. If we get our shit together and link up and stop fighting each other and kind of sift through the bullshit a little bit better, I think we'll be all right. Anyways, this has been a long enough Planes of Truth podcast, taking off or landing or whatever plane metaphor you like. Peace.